Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be reacting to
Why do Europeans seem to hate Americans?
who's doing this video?
And remember the French girlie?
Oh, okay.
Why does it seem that Europeans just hate Americans? At least if you believe the internet. I'm French, I've been to 15 states, lived and worked in the US, and I've been with an American for 8 years, so you could say that I really love the US. However, I regularly get comments by Americans who seem convinced that Europeans hate them, and I want to understand why everyone seems to have such a strong opinion of the US online, and see if this is just another internet myth or if there's some truth.
Well, lately, yeah, I think because of what Trump's
When
doing
is this dropped?
today.
Today? Oh.
Yeah, so I think lately a lot. Maybe they don't hate Americans, they hate America because of what's Trump doing, Because,
And I think they hate bad visitors, like people who come and they're like bad tourists.
yeah, because to hate Americans, I mean, well, okay, the Dutch hates Americans. We saw that. Yeah.
I'm not convinced.
Nah, they hate Americans. They do.
Oh.
The Dutch, I don't know. I'm not gonna go in there, but whatever.
Alright, so dunking on Americans seems to be a sure way to get views on TikTok. Like we have the "What's the dumbest thing an American has said to you" videos, the classic "American don't know about other countries," and of course let's not forget about the loud American ones. Seriously, this type of content has become a niche in itself, and it feeds in a broader stereotype that Americans are ignorant and over the top when they travel. If it's not obvious yet, I really don't like this type of content for many reasons, which I'll get into later in the video. But I just want to say that it's annoying to me when people generalize so much, because the US is not only very big, but it's also a very diverse place with a lot of different people. Like, you don't really have the same life experience if you're from Chicago or if you're from...
Yeah, this is annoying to me, but what's also annoying is when, American YouTubers go to Europe and they do videos.
Yeah.
Oh, what is life like in Europe? And then they describe life about, like, you cannot describe life in Europe. Like, it's just too many different countries, culture, and life is going to be different in every single country. So it's like, it's the same. Like, as the same as you cannot describe what is European, you cannot describe what is American. Because it's very, very, like, America is so huge, so is Europe. So, like, a person in Spain is going to be completely different from a person in Greece or a person in Serbia or a person in Poland, Lithuania, whatever. So it's like you can't describe that. It's
rural Texas. So I just find this type of content very misleading, and also it has real life consequences. It actually stops people from traveling confidently and also engaging with other cultures. On my channel, I've had Americans tell me in the comments that they feel nervous about traveling to Europe and they don't want to be embarrassed or judged. Also, it seems that
particularly in France,
they're the stereotype of the clueless American tourist and are really working hard to avoid seeming like one. And by reading these comments, I learned about the stereotype's official name, which is the ugly American. And this name actually comes from the 1958 American book of the same name, and it's a story about foreign aid workers in a fictional Southeast Asian country. Basically, the villains in the book were American diplomats who were out of touch and refused to learn local customs and language, while the good guy was a hard-working engineer who was trained to help locals. So apparently the book was a huge hit, and the expression ugly American stuck, although between now and then it kind of lost its
never heard of
original
that before.
me neither.
meaning, which was mostly about the political elite, and now it's all about a certain stereotype of American tourists that we're gonna unpack in the next section. Anyways, this book had quite a big cultural impact because it was adapted as a movie with Marlon Brando, and also President Kennedy sent a copy of the book to every US senator, and apparently was even inspired by this book to create the US Peace Corps, which we're supposed to improve America's image abroad through cultural understanding. And I didn't know this before making this video, but apparently this stereotype has been around for a really long time. It's at least 100 years old. In 1926, some Parisians were literally attacking American tourists in the street because they were so fed up with them flaunting their wealth in a time where people didn't really have too much money.
Oh.
Interesting.
I could understand and feel that way when, like, for example, when you go to like a sushi restaurant and you're the American and you can eat like more than what usually more other people can eat. So you're ordering like 12 rolls, and then by the 7th roll, they're like, stop.
To say that historically France is the wrong country to flaunt your wealth in, so quite a mistake from their side. But anyways, at the time, our old currency, the franc, was worth pretty much nothing because of the crazy inflation. And I've read records of people going around Paris in these big cars that were basically the old school tour buses and throwing money in the street to watch people fight over it. The police had to intervene, shots were fired, but that's not really the end of the story for us. So as you can see, this stereotype is pretty old and originally came from actual criticisms from Americans themselves about their own diplomats diplomats, but Europeans have felt the need to have an opinion about Americans for a while as well. As you can see from this 1907 quote for an Atlantic article called The American Abroad. So they say, it may be true, as Europeans complain that Americans are often ignorant of Europe, but Europeans are even more ignorant of America. Most Europeans get their information about the United States out of their newspapers, which often confuse news with opinions. Popular American movies and occasional displays of such phenomena as Elvis Presley and the late Senator McCarthy. I personally feel that things haven't changed too much since then, obviously.
That's a great point, though. Americans are ignorant. I don't think anybody's debating that, but Europeans are pretty ignorant too when it comes to the States. Because if they weren't ignorant, they wouldn't be stereotyping Americans like that. Overall, stereotypes come from ignorance.
Yeah.
Your cultural references are different, and I want to explore why everyone feels the need to have an opinion about the US. And my personal opinion on this is that it's because as Europeans, we hear about the US all the time, either through the news, pop culture, or just American companies abroad. So the US really is the dominant culture in many aspects, and we're exposed to American media and brands all around the world. And I really want to insist on this. Just because a country is in the spotlight, it doesn't mean that people actually know it well. As a French person, I also come from a culture people have a lot of opinions about and generalize a lot, and I can tell you that it is really annoying having people not understand the difference between hearing about a place in the media and actually being from there and living there. And this comment I got on a video about the US sums it best for me. The reality is, criticizing Americans has become very trendy because we're an easy target. The entire world watches everything we do, from pop culture to music to politics, and some of it is our fault. Our biggest commodity is the exportation of our culture, when the entire world has this sort of access to us.
It's just funny because they say that Americans don't have a culture. Remember, like in the videos that they say like, oh, there's no culture in America. Like this, Europe has more culture.
Oh.
Whereas there's a lot of culture in America.
Albeit superficial, it makes it easy for people to sit in their armchairs and judge us as if they really know what it's like to live here. Also, the idea that Europeans hate Americans is not really based on facts. It's more of a perception, which we will unpack a bit more later. But if you look at this graph by the Pew Research Center, you can see that most European
Most favorable opinion. Okay, so Canada. Well, that was
Yes,
before the
that's true.
Poland. Wow, Poland.
Oh, I'm reading it like which countries are considered like what if the country and if they're favorable or unfavorable.
So which country has the most favorable opinion of the U.S.? So the more green, the more favorable.
Okay. This is only towards the U.S.,
Yeah.
not the country listed.
Yeah. No, so Sweden, we saw Swedish people. Yeah, they were cool with Americans. UK, we also
You see
saw.
what year this data is collected? They don't say.
I didn't see, but where is Greece? Because we saw Greece. Greece was like very also chill. Hold up, how did I get rid of the subtitle? Oh, Greece is there below.
countries have a positive.
Greece is 48. What?
Oh,
That's not what
50,
we saw.
50.
What we saw in Greece, they were like
Really nice.
very. Everybody's was nice. I would. Well, yeah, but interesting. But
France is higher. That's crazy.
But also, no, keep in mind that it's in the video we did, this
Yeah.
was only like select people. So it's like,
Yeah.
same here. It's only a small
Netherlands,
population.
look.
Yeah. This does not reflect the video we did in the Netherlands. It was more flipped, if anything.
Yeah.
Positive opinion of the US as a country. 91% of people do in Poland, and roughly around 60% of people in other countries
Poland is crazy, though. 91%. Wow. They wow.
like France, Spain, or the UK. With that said, it feels like in Europe, everyone has an opinion in the US. And as I was telling you, it's because we constantly hear about it. And I just want to give you a few examples here. So first of all, obviously through movies. I could make a whole video about it, but basically American movies and shows are everywhere, and they re-perpetuate the tropes about Americans and the American culture. I've talked about Emily in Paris a lot on the channel, but it has every single one of it.
But it goes both ways. Like, for example, the French movies also portray the French culture, how then that's why we have this, not we, but Americans have this idea of France because of the movies too. Like, you've never been, so how else you gonna form an opinion of if not movies,
These tropes that I've mentioned before. Like, Emily's not culturally sensitive, she doesn't speak the language, she doesn't want to adapt, at least at first. But just to show you how much of an impact Americans movies have, the movie Home Alone was so popular in France in the 90s that it famously caused a peak in parents naming their kid Kevin, which is not really a common French name. Overall, I feel that movies are such a great way to be exposed to other cultures. And if you like TV shows and movies, you should use them to learn another language. And for that, you should check out
And there
today's
goes
sponsor,
commercial
Lingua
break.
Pie. Link you should way more and you can add it
You're
you
getting
can
good.
today. As you're at a bit, we hear about US brands all the time. Some of them are really well perceived, like Apple, but some others had a bit more trouble and even clash with our culture at first. And for that, I need to tell you about this
like
guy.
what?
This is José Bové, and he is the most French activist ever because he protested US tariffs on Roquefort cheese, so this very delicious blue cheese, and he did so by dismantling a McDonald's.
good.
This was such a big event in my region of the south of France in the early 2000s, and it wasn't just about rejecting fast food, it was more about the fear of losing our food traditions in a more globalized world. At the time, a lot of people were anti-McDonald's, which they saw as a symbol of that. But since then, fast food has been more adopted by French
Yeah,
people.
I
and
wonder how it, fast food even infiltrated Europe. I feel like it would be something that's like completely contrast to the belief system of how they believe food should be presented, enjoyed.
Convenience and taste good. I don't know. No.
Yeah, but that's so different from the European culture.
Exactly, culture stereotype. Just because that's how it is stereotyped that Europeans view food doesn't mean every single European views food that way. There is
I would be curious to see a video how fast food make it into Europe.
maybe there is one.
That'll be really cool.
McDonald's even has French-inspired foods like the McBaguette or the macaroons. But a lot of people still will associate American foods to fast food chains, and this always comes back in the street interview style content. And obviously, as I said many times on the channel, this is not representative of the really cool food culture of the US. But also, since the US is the world's most
Right, but that's the food culture that the states export. So from their perspective, from European perspective, that's what they think American food is, because that's the only thing export. You don't see Cajun food being exported. You don't see Philly cheesesteak being exported. They export McDonald's, KFC, Pizza Hut.
powerful country, American foreign politics impacts us all. And I'm not really gonna discuss exactly how in this video, but I want to show you this graph by the Pew Research Center that shows which countries have a positive opinion of the US throughout the years. And here you can really see how foreign policy decisions impact how we view each other as countries. Like you can see here that France and the US were
So this disapproval rating, I guess. So France throughout the years,
It's not pretty good.
disapprove.
Yeah.
I'm more curious to see if there was anybody that South Korea approved up until 2020. 2020 they didn't. I guess COVID, they didn't approve how the states handle COVID. Aside from that, South Korea is pretty favorable. Germany became very unfavorable during Trump's first term, 35, 30, 39, 26. And Biden's term also 59, 60. I guess picked up a little bit. Netherlands, same. So basically, during the Trump's term, got a dip. Except for Poland. Poland don't dip. Poland said they're good. Wow. Israel liked it. Greece. Why is Greece so
That's
low?
interesting with Poland.
Yeah, Poland's like really die-hard American fans, huh?
were not the best of friends in early 2003 when the war in Iraq started. Also, a lot of content on the internet is in English, so it does feel like you're exposed to American perspectives a lot, and online it kind of seems like the default nationality. For whatever reason, sometimes people assume I'm American, even though I'm French is literally the first sentence of my YouTube description. And then there's travel and tourism. Often when people travel, they will look for things that naturally reinforce their stereotypes. I talk a lot about it on the channel, but it's a normal thing everyone does. Just to generalize and give you an example, people who go to Italy will want to try the pizza, and then maybe Europeans who go to the US will look for stereotypical US things like fast food chains, tall buildings, and big trucks. So because of all that, when Europeans meet someone from the US or are asked questions about US issues or Americans themselves, they will feel like they are entitled to have an opinion because they feel exposed to the culture. And it's something I have personal experience of. So my boyfriend Bob.
Well, everybody's entitled to the opinions. That's just your right as a human. But I think with social media, like back in the day, it used to be that only select people have their opinions heard, like the celebrities, the TV hosts, the TV guests, newspaper writers. Those type of people would have their opinions heard. Nowadays, anybody with a phone can have an opinion and post it online.
With so much confidence too.
Yeah, with so much confidence too. And it's, there's a lot of opinions now. So since everybody's opinions is heard, that's what we get.
He's from Chicago.
Especially the more following they have, people equate that to, oh, they're being more credible.
Yeah, the more following, the more credibility it seems you have. Yeah.
We often meet people who want to.
That's why, like, there was I think, like, with this athletes and having them speaking out for like politics, or like artists, musicians, about like what they can say. They just because they have 100 million subscribers or like followers doesn't mean their opinion is right. It's just an opinion. Well, to be fair, there's no right opinion. It's opinion is it's not a right or wrong. Right or wrong can only be a fact. Opinion is opinion.
Ask him about the US and also share their opinions. Like 99% of the time it's respectful, but I feel it often lacks nuance. And it can be a bit repetitive because everyone asks him to comment about the same exact things, like recently the elections, and it can be a bit annoying because Bobby's a travel YouTuber, not a political analyst. And also I want to say that, whatever people think of the US as a country, when you meet people in real life, most people are respectful and always know to make the difference between a country and its citizens. And idiots exist everywhere, but it's very rare to meet people who are just blindly against all Americans. Also, keep in mind that all the content you see online is edited to pick the best moments, which is not a problem.
That is true. That's why when we do these videos, we
That's
take
true.
it. Even the interviews, we take it with a grain of salt. There's always a narrative to push. Everybody has a narrative, so you gotta kind of see through the narrative. If like 90% of the people answering like almost identical, this clearly a narrative. If you have like 50-50, like 60-40, maybe even 70-30, okay, it's just how it happens. But if it's like we have 10 people being interviewed, 9 people answer one way, and one person answers the opposite way, that's a narrative they're pushing.
When the creator has some nuance and will show us both positive and negative stereotypes, but can feel sometimes really cherry-picked to only keep the most extreme cases where people say the craziest things. Alright, as you're probably aware of, extreme content in general tends to do better online. Like, for example, this is my most viewed video. It's called 12 Things Not to Do in Paris by a local. But if I titled it, like, 12 things you should probably avoid, but like, it's kind of okay if you do them, I guess, I don't think it would have had the same success.
Yes, she's right. Sensationalism, not necessarily clickbaity, but the headlines are very important. Yeah.
I do feel that there's a difference between choosing a catchy title,
and she knows better than us because we ain't got no 1 million view videos. So
to make sure your video has the most chance of reaching people, and then content that's exaggerated and rage baiting. And to show you an example,
I think if we say it's 12 things not to do in Miami by a local, I think it would go crazy. In Miami, like.
Yeah. But then we would actually like have to drive around Miami to show places to have nice views. And I think if we were just sitting here talking about 12 things, I don't think it would be that interesting.
Well, no, the thumbnail has to look different. The thumbnail has to be like, you have to see the water, you have to see Ocean Drive, maybe some food.
12 things not to do in Miami as a tourist.
Yeah.
Don't go to the South Beach on a spring break.
Yeah.
I want to show you a TikTok from this creator, Ivana B. And here I want to say that this creator has good intentions. Just like me, she's also trying to talk about stereotypes and how they're bad. But I feel her content is a perfect example of how playful cultural commentary can easily turn into stereotyping and mocking other cultures if you're not being careful. In this video, she reacts to another video by a British creator who is criticizing Americans for being loud. And obviously the British creator is not doing that in the kindest way. But the way Ivana B reacts kind of feels not very constructive to me. And also she gets into the same generalizations that we don't like about Americans. And I personally feel that sometimes short content can be the death of nuance, but here it really creates a us versus them mentality that I really dislike. And this
she knows it works, girl. She's doing that for the views. Don't even pay attention to that.
Where she says her mission is dismantling the European superiority complex. I'm also all about fighting stereotypes, but I don't think creating content that makes people feel angry or divided is...
How many subscribers she has?
All about fighting stereotypes, but I don't...
Wow, a lot of people are interested in that.
It's working for her.
I don't think creating content that makes people feel angry or divided is the answer. So online, the way content gets recommended to you is through an algorithm that tries to guess what you like. So if you engage with those rage baiting videos, either by watching them,
that's
leaving a positive or negative comment, you will start getting recommended more like it. And it will create an illusion that it's the full reality and that there's an...
Yes.
Feeding the troll.
That the echo chamber that social media creates is true. Yeah.
Actual beef and drama between Europeans and Americans, when in reality there isn't any. Like, to stay on the topic of the video I just showed you,
Like I also feel like there isn't any like, but like on social media it does feel like anytime like we do these videos, people in the comments like be like they're beefing. Like I'm like I don't really. Why? I cannot understand. Why is there a beef? It's not like, if you want to say there's a beef with China, okay. Maybe like if the Chinese came and commented, okay, there is kind of a beef with China, at least, economic beef. So I can see it. I feel like with Europe, there's really no beef just because whatever Trump is doing. What does that have to do with any of us? Like, nobody controls that. It's just one person doing it,
I'm European. I love going to restaurants. And I don't really like loud places because it's just hard for me to hear anything there. But honestly, this whole loud American debate is a non-issue. No one is ever so loud that they completely ruin my meal. No one is arguing about people being loud. And it's just something TikTok exaggerates and makes seem like it's a bigger problem than it actually is. And I personally believe that consuming content that intentionally makes us feel more divided and angry for absolutely no reason is actually shaping our worldview and is making us more cynical and also less happy. Personally, I really try to question this type of content, especially when it's about different cultures and places I haven't personally experienced. And this has been one of the big motivations for my channel. We try to show nuanced take on cultural stereotypes, and I always want to encourage cultural openness and empathy even when I don't agree with something. If you want my take on this whole European versus American debate, I believe that this is not such a heated debate after all. At the end of the day, Americans have done nothing to deserve the hate, and Europeans don't actually hate them personally. It's just that when you're the most visible country in the world, people think they know you, and unfortunately feel the need to make not very nuanced TikTok content about it. But knowing about a place is not really the same thing.
And what's popular is the street interviews. So they're looking for like the wild answers to get viral views.
Yeah, I told you in one of the videos we had this in Lithuania show, but they always pick out the dumbest answers. Always because I have known people that got, well, okay, not people, one person who got.
That's people.
who got asked a question and answered correctly. It wasn't like opinion. It was like just like a questionnaire. Like, oh, what is the capital of this? Let's say. They answered correctly. Well, their answer never aired. It's always the wildest answers.
It's a little bit insulting they even asked the person to film, because that means they thought they were gonna give like a silly question, like, oh, this guy might give a really good answer.
I mean, I never thought of that, but it makes sense.
Knowing it. And my personal belief is that if you're a kind person and you try your best to adapt to the local culture, you will have absolutely no problems when visiting a country. And I personally know that very well because I'm French and there are negative stereotypes about my country, but I've also been to around 70 countries and I've had nothing but good experiences because I always try to adapt to the local culture. And while researching this video, I came across this article from travel writer Rick Steve about the ugly American sentiment abroad. And he says, those who are treated like ugly Americans are treated that way because they are ugly Americans. They aren't bad people, they are just ethnocentric. And by the way, ethnocentric is just a fancy word to say that you think your culture is better than others. And while this quote might seem a bit harsh at first, I have to say that I personally agree with it, because if you visit a country and you don't want to adapt to the local customs or even respect the culture, you're gonna get in trouble and people will just not like you. Like, it has nothing to say about where you come.
But the thing is, though, I would say Europeans are ethnocentric because there's a lot of Europeans that do praise, Europe is better than America, which is ethnocentric.
But I think that's an echo chamber that you've been seeing.
Because like a lot of immigrants, why they live like there's a little Italy, little Cuba, well, little Havana in this case. In Chicago, there's like almost little Lithuania, little Vilnius. I don't think it's called like that, but it's a lot of Lithuanian population. There's a lot of Poles in there. Why they all live in the same neighborhoods? Because they don't want to assimilate. They think their culture is better and they don't need to become Americans. They don't need to assimilate.
Also, it's hard leaving your country from far away. You want to have a little piece of it too, as
but
well.
like, so you think you're better, and that's why. So you are kind of ethnocentric,
I think those spaces are there for like those who just got there. I think at some point you want to flex and move out, because the flex is not staying in the local little places.
A lot of people end up staying there. Like, it's just that's the comfort zone. You don't want to, like, you already leaving the comfort zone by leaving the country, coming to the next. Now you get kind of like another I don't know. My goal was always to assimilate. I wanted to. That's why I never, was in that. I wanted to, because if I left, obviously I felt another country was better. So that's why I left. I didn't leave because I felt oh yeah, Lithuania is better, but I'm still leaving. That would make me stupid. Why the fuck I'm leaving a better place for worse?
I see that perspective.
You know, so to me, it's just from my personal experience, a lot of Europeans I've met, if not all, are do feel that their culture is superior than American culture. Like in college, all the Europeans, they would hang out together because they felt, oh, Americans are stupid, they're better than Americans. So that's, I don't think that's a unique American phenomenon that they think their culture is better.
Come from, but more about how you act. It's just like if you invited me to your home and I started criticizing your home decor choices and say that my home is better, we wouldn't have a really good time. Also, in different places, people do things differently. For example, in my home country of France, if you ever have an issue with something at a shop or a restaurant, yelling at service people is never the answer. People will intervene and tell you off. Like, there's no customer is king mentality here. And this is not because they hate you or your country, it's just because you're acting disrespectfully by French standards. But sometimes, even if you're polite and have the best intentions in the world, it's easy to make some mistakes when you're traveling and you don't know some specific unspoken cultural rules. And if you want to know what they are in French.
Alrighty.
Okay. Guys, of course, let us know your thoughts. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Join the Discord. And as always, share as much kindness as possible.